What's going on, Workforce? Brian here.
Chris here.
And today we actually have some news. Final Fantasy XIV's next letter from the producer live, set for July the 9th. But before we dive into this video, Chris, what's going on over on Gaming Kinda?
I'm trying to figure out reaction content every other day, and then in between, I'm doing all sorts of kind of guides for things you guys ask for, opinions on the state of certain battle systems within games, comparing those across sometimes World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy, and Guild Wars 2, since those are the three active games kind of in my rotation. It's just a whole bunch of posting, kind of.
All right. And just as a slight plug for me, Ginger Prime Clips has just crossed over 100 subscribers. So that means I'm going to tell you guys about it. Usually I wait to see if we can get the subscribers naturally. But if you guys are interested and you like the podcast, but you always kind of thought it'd be nicer to have it done up in chunks, Ginger Prime Clips, we take the podcast, kind of dive into the main topics, 6 to maybe 10 minutes, depending on the video size and what the context there within. So guys, check out one of the top links below to go and subscribe and follow over on Ginger Prime Clips. I appreciate the support. Obviously, we always like to try to get to that 1,000 subscriber because it opens up features here on YouTube. So that being said, let's dive into the actual post. I'll read it to you guys so we can have the full context, and we can then dive into what we know, and then we'll also talk about maybe some speculations or what we hope that we're going to hear at this next letter from the producer live. But again, July the 9th at 7:30 p.m. PDT. So for us Central folks, that's going to be 9:30 p.m. I love it when it's not like at 3 in the morning, so I'm going to sit here and be very happy.
They're long.
They're long.
But starting at a time that I'm ever awake is a huge perk.
It helps. It just means that towards the once they get to the announcements, that's where you start seeing me lean back in the chair a little bit, just tell me when if there's anything I need to know that's important. We'll be live to cover this, to translate it. Reddit does a great live translation as well, so there'll be like any information that we can get will be coming out of it. Now, if you don't want to watch us or our commentary or our faces throughout this, you can always check out YouTube, Nico, and Twitch. Will include links, especially when we go live, to all that content. We typically get somebody coming in and it's like, can you all be quiet? I'm trying to listen to this Japanese that I don't understand. It's like, dude, links are below, man. We're just gonna, you just go on and mosey on over. Now, they say for the show details, patch 6.0 digest, we'll come back to that thought here in a second, special guests, miscellaneous updates. And for special guests, Yosuke Saito, the producer of the Nier series, and YOKO Taro, obviously the game director of the Nier series as well. They also are taking questions over on the official forums. Link will be in the description of this video for you guys if you want to go dive into that and enjoy. And basically the questions are going to focus around the YoRHa Dark Apocalypse. So that's what we know. That's when it's happening. I'm excited to see it, but let's talk about what's actually happening here, Chris. Let's start with patch 6.0 digest. What do you want this to be? What do you hope this to be? I'm going to let
so starting at the end. So 6.0, because then we got to count back through 5.5.6 and 5.5.8, right?
Yes, because they list it. That's why we think we'll see 5.5, 6, 7, and 8 information.
Yeah, so can we just start there? So
start there.
For all the new players,
mentally,
live letters are the part of the regular communication we get from the devs. 5.5.6, so this time of the expansion is really a blur. So 5.5.6, I don't remember what goes in a 5.6 patch. 5.5.7 is lifting of the way the echo and loot works within the current top end game, right? So that makes everything does that lift the weekly caps of Savage and the Tower of Paradigm? Is that 5.5.7?
I think that's 5.5.7.
That's 5.5.7. So what's in 5.5.6?
Typically that's balance adjustments, little minor updates. We don't get
starting to kind of prep themselves for the job changes. If there's anything that needs to change on the back end for the job changes, it's the closest to a pre-patch. Is that
I've even seen them, at least from my memory, skip a 5.6 and just go right into 5.7. So it's
I don't remember that one as substantial. And then the 0.58 of last expansion gave us the ability to jump servers within our data center. But we also moved to having even more data centers. So aspects of the community felt like they got to come together. Other aspects of the community felt like they got fragmented. Now we're closing that back up with World Visit going live prior to the expansion so they can iron out kinks. I think the ability to jump server to server World Visit went really smoothly last time, considering it didn't have to. So we'll see if Data Center Visit does. I think the bigger issues with World Visit didn't show themselves until like Ishgard Restoration and stuff of the next expansion. I think the actual World Visit itself wasn't the problem. I think the way it caused people to interact with content was where it started to break things.
Yeah, and they made those changes to that pretty quickly, which both of us were like,
live, like
wow,
fixed.
that no update needed. They just like, okay, we're just turning it off. It's like, that's great that they were like, well, let's see how people interact with it, and if it becomes horrible, we'll shut that down in and of itself. So that's one of the questions.
Design an off switch, by the way. Like if you know content's going to be good, it would be really easy to just not design an off switch. Way to be like.
One of the things that you brought up about the Oceanic servers, which is an interesting question, as a part of a podcast. Again, check out the clips, guys. But as a part of the podcast, where it's like, what does the Oceanic servers get? Are they going to go through the Ishgard Restoration on those servers? Can we data visit over there if you want to go participate in that content, or are they just going to randomly pick a crafter that they're going to highlight as a part of the Ishgardian Restoration? Who knows? Guys, let us know what your theory is on that one in the comments.
Any new servers. Oceanic's just our first time for new servers, right? Yeah. They're just migrating servers over. If we had like, the Aussies and the Kiwis were all using this Japanese server, and it's exclusively used by English speakers, like, and we're just going to migrate it over. You would just keep whatever Ishgard got finished with. But yeah. These sound like they're going to be new servers, which means they haven't done Ishgard Restoration. It also means housing is going to be, I don't know what happens. Like every ward is open. I mean, it's going to be pre-season. It's going to be chaos.
You guys wanted
chaos.
You guys wanted housing, and I'm here to kill chaos. I was watching, just as a quick aside, I was watching Happy play the game the other day, play Origin. I was like, that actually looks really good. It looks much better than the trailer kind of like highlighted it. And
he's played Souls games, right? Mm-hmm. So he's qualified to like do both the Final Fantasy aspect and the Souls aspect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like at the end of the day, I was like, that was actually really enjoyable stream. I'm glad I was able to hang out and catch his gameplay and get his thoughts on that. And then honestly, as a Final Fantasy game, I'm like, I'm going to play it. I'm going to, like, they've already sold me like, oh, it's got Final Fantasy in the title. Cool. So we'll have to wait, but we have to wait till 2022 anyway. So I was like, I was a little bit bummed, felt the fact that I didn't have a PS5. I was like, oh man. Anyway, so congrats to those who've been able to play Origin, and let me know what you think about it. But okay, so we've gone through 5.6, 5.7, 5.8.
So 6.0 is going to go live. Mm-hmm. Those of all of us existing players are going to go in on November 19th.
The 19th, yeah.
And this is the first big wave of content that is heavily focused on telling us about that, since they basically just tossed out little feelers.
Yeah.
I want to know what in the world Island Sanctuary is. I assume that it's a 6.1 piece of content, but like, I still want to know.
Yeah.
I want to know what the PvP changes are. Yes. Because we're talking about making another round of effort to breathe life into Final Fantasy XIV PvP. And I want to know what the plan is there. I'd love to know the content rollout schedule, because this game has been accused of being unbelievably repetitive in the past as far as like the predictability of what's inside each patch, and that has pros and cons. It keeps the patches on time, keeps new players knowing what they're getting, but it keeps veteran players going, point 1, I know what's in point 1. Point 2, I know what's in point 2. But this time, like with the story being a brand new fresh start in 6.1, and with everything being wrapped up in 6.0, like, does that change the number of trial fights we get? Does that change the number of dungeons and how those are rolled out? Like, does it change the content rollout schedule? Because content in this game is not just content. It can be enjoyed just as what it is, but the boss you're fighting has lore ramifications, the cutscene leading into that and coming out of that. And so these are all storytelling devices.
I would be very concerned with giving us more information about whatever happens after 6.0. Because I think essentially then you'd have me and the rest of the community kind of combing through and either rightfully or wrongfully calling what that means, the implications and beyond. I would literally just say, like, guys, like we're focusing on Endwalker. We're going to be focusing in on here's the plan. Kind of, I think when they talk about 6.0 digest, I think it's a really good way for them to kind of recap, address any kind of questions that they're ready to talk about and share in that regards, because essentially they do realize, like, they do have a community like that, but if they all of a sudden start preparing me for like what could even be perceived as less content. Like if they're like, well, guys, we really looked at the numbers, and we're not going to do one dungeon per patch. We're going to do one dungeon every other patch. And then it's like, and then that's just unnecessary drama from a veteran base. That drama is not going to translate to a new player who's like, I've got like 100 dungeons like to clear, like, and you're mad that you're not getting, 110 or 120, 15, or like whatever that number ends up being, maybe pushing us finally over 100. I haven't done the math in a while on it, but we have a lot of dungeons, guys. Like I there's no need. Like, honestly, this is an exciting time. Veteran players are, like looking at it. I would talk about, here's the recap. Here's Reaper. Here's what we're ready to share. Because typically we get that sometimes at FanFest in the Q&A where Yoshi P can kind of expand on it. And maybe this will be a really good time for those questions that he did get to email back out to the community to kind of say, hey, like, here's everything, right? There's been conversations happening over here on Reddit and over here on YouTube, and conversations that are part of these interviews. Let me just take time, because some people don't go and consume every little bit of thing that drops, and we don't even get to cover it all, right? So it's like, hey, sit back and have fun, and let's go. It's not data, Brian. It's lore, Brian.
So, I do think that, so traditionally, we would have 3 fan fests building up to an expansion. So if we're going to skip the question from like, what would I hope to learn from this event, to what do I expect to learn from this event? As good of a job as they did with the showcase and FanFest, they were not able to reveal the sheer amount of information that we can get from 3 separate FanFests, which of course have repeats from each other, and of course are focused on the content that's current at the time that they're coming out. And so they're not perfect showcases either. The job action trailer traditionally comes out about a month before the expansion, so it's too soon for that. So I think that this is timed at an appropriate window to go back over the traditional kind of slideshow of what goes in the content and fill it out a little bit. That slideshow, of course, starts with, every expansion starts with a full playthrough JRPG. That's always the first listed piece of content, whether or not it's what's most important to you. We then talk about, dungeons, trials, raids being added to the expansion. We talk about the fact that we are going to level 90. I think that it would be nice to once again touch on what a stat squish is, because they talked about it for like 30 minutes before, and people are like, why are they talking about it so long? And I'm still seeing people come in and go, well, we're going to be way weaker. That's not what a squish has to mean on its own. We could be weaker, but we could be weaker and not have the stat squish. That's independent. But I think there's a fair reminder there. It would be nice to see them trickle out a couple of the job changes. Sometimes they touch on like one class, like as an example. But with the job action trailer coming a little further in the summer, I have a feeling that that's going to be really nothing at all. Little to nothing. We've got some events coming up that I don't know that they did a good job kind of explaining what those are. The Rising and Make It Rain and all of that. And so like, I wouldn't mind filling out the rest of like what the rollout plan is from here to the expansion. Those are all pretty basic things. I don't know. I don't know, because this is not how we did it in the past.
Right. In the past, we were actually playing the expansion, but that's, the world has flipped upside down, and we have all new problems that everybody's had to kind of deal with this over the last time. I think, again, when they look at 6.0 digest, it feels too soon for them to really kind of show their hand outside, like you said, like if they want to give some examples of some of the thoughts. I think this is a really good opportunity for that. I think it's a really good opportunity to kind of set the stage, highlight some of the things that are like right on the horizon. I would love to start hearing about if there's going to be another limited job, if they're going to make changes into that system, like some of the changes that we feel like are coming. Because like one of the things, just as an example, like even at the media tour, they were letting us know, like, hey, we're making these changes to the fates in this system. We're doing some of these other things. Like, I think this would be a really interesting opportunity for them to say, if any of the changes that Endwalker are trickling into like the core system. Hey guys, and showing off some examples of that. So for things to be excited about, right? Hey, we're going to bring trusts back into the ARR zones, and we're going to change this here in Endwalker. Oh man, that's exciting stuff to see. No one's going to sit here and be like, oh no, they're ruining it. Like
any changes to the Unreal system would be like a welcome announcement at this point. Like, are we going to be moving to starting next time we get one of the ones we've already done as well as a new one? Like are there changes there? Because they've talked about in the past, like, hey, once we get this a little more built out, we may make changes to this system. Yeah, I think those are fair. It's hard to say exactly what's going to come out of this. A fair bit of it's going to be repeats of things, but hopefully, like, take what was said before, use that as the first half of the sentence, and then continue into something that offers new context.
Yeah.
That I don't know that I can say enough that this is not when I expect the job action trailer.
Right. I do not expect the job action trailer. I do not expect some of the things that I would expect if this was September, early October. Like, that's where the things that I think the majority of us all really are hungry for, especially the veterans. I see chat asking like when Reaper is being released. November the 19th if you pre-order, November the 23rd if you don't. That's essentially when that's happening. I see chat also talking about like it'd be a great time to announce Final Fantasy XI being included with the 14 sub. I think that would be something we would have a little bit more insight into, but that would be a great surprise. I just don't expect it.
Especially because any surprises at this event.
I don't expect any surprises, and that would make it even better if it was.
Yeah,
it is, like, great. So regardless, I would go into this as this is just one of the things that I do want to say. Like, it is an appreciative thing, even if they don't have things that we're gonna like. Oh my gosh, they're doing this thing or etc. We kind of had that as a part of FanFest. I feel like we get, despite the fact that this is in Japan, like, I feel like as a community, we get regular content updates, regular check-in from the devs. And even if that check-in is just like, we're going to summarize things, we're going to clarify a few things, we've seen these questions, here are those answers. But what about the job action trailer? It's coming. Like, and the fact is that I know it's coming. So for players who are hungry for it, the unfortunate answer is we all want it. We're all going to have to wait. But we know that it's coming. We know that this is a July update. And if we might get another July update, but we know that we'll get an August update. And they also have the 14-hour live stream that they announced recently as well. So, like, at the end of the day, it might not be like the mic drop moments that we're all like excited about and we know that are coming. But we do know that we're getting information. We're getting, I feel like we're getting checked in on and able to kind of set the clock to it. So I'm excited for the 9th. I think it's a great time.
I think simply confirming which systems are carrying over. So I think simply listing off the features would already be exciting to me. So if Deep Dungeon makes the list, they've said that they're looking into a way to get Deep Dungeon into the expansion. That doesn't mean it's in there. Right. And so like them saying like, yeah, and then we'll have features like Deep Dungeon. Like, that statement on its own is not that big, but it's confirmation that it is coming, this expansion, even if it's not there on launch, even if it doesn't come out till 6.3. Mm-hmm. Confirmation of the new PvP mode. They've mentioned a little bit that it'll be bigger than Feast, smaller.
Right. What does that mean?
What does that mean? Yeah. Is that 8 people? Is that 10 people? Like, what is that, 7? Are we making some weird number? Is there comps? Are we gonna have roll and need? Like, I have other questions, and so even just listing out the features, are there going to be changes to the trust system? Is bicolor gemstones being carried forward? Just listing like, here's things that are in Shadowbringers that will also be, just confirming that maps and then those kind of Uznair style zones in the maps are carrying forward. Just knowing that things aren't being cut, that we enjoy, and that maybe things we've seen in the past that weren't in Shadowbringers are coming back. Those are really meaningful. Knowing some of their thoughts. How do they feel on Zadnor? How do they feel on Dalreda? How do they feel looking back over the relic system? How are they feeling right now? How do they feel that the dungeons this expansion went now that we've gotten all of them? I know how I feel about dungeons, but I'm not in charge of where the game goes from here. Right. And so in their mind, how do they feel about how they handled crossover events this expansion? How do they feel how they handled Savage? Obviously, they would have loved to have another Ultimate, but like, how do they feel the first Ultimate of this expansion went? I would love for this to be a chance to kind of say, here's the feature list of Shadowbringers, based on feedback and based on how we feel internally. Here's kind of the feature list moving forward and a little bit of context for those things. I don't know that there's new information in there. I don't know that there's a mic drop in there, But like you said, I mean, especially because we're always dealing with translation, we're always dealing with partial ideas. It's really easy for them to say, we answered the same question 6 times. We believe we've answered it from the same point of view all 6 times. And yet us as the viewers are like, yeah, but each time filled in a little more of that puzzle. Each time is helping me better understand exactly what you mean by that. And so this is one more chance to get some context.
I agree. Well, guys, hopefully you got something really good out of this video. We're excited. We'll be covering it, like we said. So be sure to check that out. And if you guys have any questions, always feel free to leave them in the comments below or check us out live. I see a couple questions that have popped up while we've been filming this video. So we're going to wrap up this video. We're going to try to answer those questions. And hopefully you guys have a good day. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully we'll see you next time. But until then,
take care.